have no voice, and we will win because we know how to win.
Yeah, historic moment, the first incumbent president in the history of our republic who actually addressed in person the March for Life. And right there, that cut is really the only one that matters. Why? As a wise man once said, a civilization is measured by how it treats the most vulnerable in that civilization, whether it is the aged or whether it is the unborn. And given that metric, we're not doing well. However, the news of late could be witness to a turning tide. No one better to discuss. He's a good friend of America First. Now it's one-on-one. He's in the swamp. He's in studio. He is the director of Priests for Life, Father Frank Pavone. Welcome in studio.
Oh, boy, it's a joy to be here, Seb. Thank you so much.
I want to introduce everyone who doesn't know who you are or what your organization does, who's maybe tuned in for the first time to understand all the work that you've done and you're doing every single day. We'll get to you, the man, momentarily, but let's just roll with that cut. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to America? What does it mean to the Christian world to have an incumbent president address the March for Life?
You know, Seb, we dreamt about this back. I remember going to the March for Life, and my first one was the third one, 1976.
Wow. And you were like 2 years old, right?
Yeah, right. But I remember, through the Reagan years, he would call in by phone and say, "Hey, Nellie Gray and the Marchers, how you doing?" And we would stand there literally saying, "Hey, the White House isn't far from here. Can you imagine if the president came?" And like for decades, that was like our dream. What it does is it gives a new level of legitimacy. I mean, the movement is legitimate. It stands on its own, obviously. But for a president to be there says to America, this movement has come far. It has come far. It has an impact, and it's shaping the nation. And we were all so encouraged. As a matter of fact, let me back up and just say, President Donald Trump, and of course you were privileged to work for him, I served on his advisory commissions, both campaigns. And in the second one, I was national co-chair of what he called Pro-Life Voices for Trump. Yes. I was so proud to do that. And, I was told during the first campaign, if he's elected, he'll do everything that past pro-life presidents have done and more. And those words, "and more," echoed through my mind during all the 4 years of his presidency because he proved them true every day. Yeah. He didn't just address the March for Life. He came in person. He didn't just reinstitute the Mexico City policy. He expanded it to cover more government programs. And on it goes. I remember Mick Mulvaney telling us that one of the State of the Union addresses, he was going over it, and he saw the pro-life section, and he took his pen and he started writing, not to take things out, but to add more things in, And I mean, just the way he talked about the issue. I mean, policy is one thing. He did tremendous things with policy. But the way you talk about this issue especially is what really connected him with a lot of the American people right from square one. You remember that third debate with Hillary Clinton. They ripped the babies from the womb in the 9th month. That might be okay with you, but it's not okay with me. And people are listening to that and saying, "Hey, that's the way I talk about this around my kitchen table, and with my friends." I cannot say enough about what he did for our movement.
Yeah, I was there with my wife. It was a little bit of a brisk morning here in D.C., but just to see him there, it just energized. I don't know how many people were there. A lot of people. Yes. And gave us faith that, this diabolical threat to everything we hold sacred can be defeated. We'll talk about how truly diabolical it is. We're talking to the director of Priests for Life, Father Frank Pavone. Follow him on Twitter. Fr Frank Pavone, Father Frank Pavone. Tell our millions of listeners a little bit, because we don't usually have this luxury of so much time to talk to you. Yeah. Who is Frank Pavone? Where does he hail from? How did he become a Catholic priest? And how did he end up as director for Priests for Life?
Well, I'm from the town of Port Chester, New York, just north of New York City. And I went to public schools, but I felt a calling to the priesthood when I was in my senior year of high school. And it was at that very same time that I felt a new interest. I felt an interest in the pro-life movement. I was kind of discovering the whole abortion issue that we are, because our town had a bus go into the March for Life. So I went as a high school senior.
Was it a religious family, your family?
You know, we went to church on Sunday, but nothing beyond that.
Okay.
So we weren't really deeply involved in the church. But during that year, something happened. You know, God's grace worked on me, and I got a desire to start going to Mass every day, to become an altar server. I had never done that before. And read the scriptures more, pray more. A whole thing happened during that year. And so I went into the seminary right after high school.
Wow.
And I went with the Salesians at first. Then I took some time off after I graduated their college seminary. And then I went back into seminary with the New York Archdiocese under Cardinal O'Connor at the time. And, you know, that you see God's providence. For him, abortion was the #1 issue. And so that fanned the flames that had already started burning within me about protecting the unborn and about how this issue was the most fundamental moral challenge that we have. So when I got ordained by Cardinal O'Connor, he sent me to Staten Island and a large parish there. And after 4 or 5 years of ministry in the parish, which I loved, I came to the conviction I had to devote myself full time
to this issue.
To this issue, exactly.
And how did you make that happen? How did you engineer
Well, of
that?
course, yeah. You know, as a priest, I had to ask permission of the cardinal. And again, because it was such a passion of his, he didn't need any convincing about how important it was.
How old are you at this point?
I was at that point, what was I? I was ordained at 29, so I was like 33. And, you know, here's the fascinating thing that happened. He had started the Sisters of Life.
Yes.
So here's a religious congregation of women devoted to pro-life. And that started to get me thinking there should be something like this for priests. And lo and behold, I found out that a priest in California had the same idea because his mom, who was a widow, joined the Sisters of Life.
Okay.
So now the cardinal was making all these connections. And before I went to see him to ask permission to do pro-life work full time, this same priest from California calls me and he says, I'm going into military chaplaincy and I need somebody to head this new organization, Priests for Life. Are you interested? So I said, wow, what timing this is. I'm just about to ask the cardinal if I could do this full time. The cardinal gave me permission. This was 1993. And so I became the first full-time director of this new organization. And I've been doing it ever since.
Tell us about Priests for Life. This
Yes.
is priestsforlife.org. What's the mission? What is the, when the rubber meets the road, what are you actually doing?
Yes, we are mobilizing the churches to fight abortion. And not only the churches as institutions, but all believers beyond, you know, just the institution. And to understand what we do, I've got to go back to the guy who started the abortion industry in America, Bernard Nathanson, whom I knew personally.
Really?
And who, yeah, I did. Oh, I could tell you some stories about him. But he was, you know, the biggest abortionist in America, and he eventually became pro-life, and eventually became a Catholic. He was an atheist / agnostic.
But then he saw the evil of what he was doing.
Yes, he did. He did. Even before he got the gift of faith. So why do I go back to Nathanson? He outlined the strategy that he and his colleagues used to launch the abortion industry, and they had what they called a Catholic strategy.
Yes.
And they said, we're going to catch the church asleep. We're going to take a gamble, but if the clergy are meek and silent, we can get away with this. And then they started sending out all these false numbers. In fact, you still hear them today. The numbers about, 10,000 women were dying from illegal abortion every year. That was nonsense. It was nothing anywhere near that. So he said, once he became pro-life, I got to know him. He started talking to groups of clergy. He said, and I'll quote him exactly, referring to him and his colleagues starting the abortion industry, he said, we would have never gotten away with what we did if you, that is the Catholic priests, had been united, purposeful, and strong.
Wow.
And he said, we stole the issue from you, he said.
So your goal is to address that.
So that's right, Priests for Life helps the clergy to be more united, purposeful, and strong in fighting abortion. But I hasten to say, we're not just for priests. Yeah. It's Priests for Life, but a priest ministers to all the people, right? So we minister to the whole pro-life movement. We educate, we broadcast, we travel and speak in churches, and we do seminars. We have strategy meetings with pro-life leaders. We lead abortion prayer vigils at the abortion clinics. All this activity. We help pregnancy centers. We train pregnancy center workers. And we have a very large ministry, again, a very appropriate for priests, of healing the wounds of abortion.
Wow. Well, you know, it is an overused phrase, but in this case, it couldn't be more apt. You literally are doing the Lord's work. We're talking to the National Director of Priests for Life. That's priestsforlife.org. Please support this organization. His name is Father Frank Pavone.
If you hold an IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, or pension, your money is now at serious risk. A controversial new law gives the U.S. government the right to raid your retirement funds. The Wall Street Journal reports this new law, quote, sticks it to the middle class, while Salon reports, quote, if you thought it was a safe bet to put your money into retirement plans over the span of your career, think again. What can you do to protect your retirement? The Center for Retirement Security lays out all the facts. Get the full story, plus what you can still do about it here.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah. Beat a little bit.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
¿Cuánto queda?
No queda nada. Que lo siento mucho.
That's the only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God calls you to the cross. Don't you hesitate.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Madre, Padre, ¿quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
And you and I have talked about this many times. Doctors Without Borders did their own study. This isn't a Fed number. This isn't my number. 31% of women that make their journey get sexually assaulted. We've heard the case how many children die. Already, and I talked to one sheriff on the southwest border in Texas who's already found over 50 dead migrants in his county that were left stranded by the cartels. The cartels mistreat these people. They torture these people. They can't pay the smuggling fees. They've killed these people that can't pay smuggling fees. Yeah. We already know that enough opioids came across this border and are buying at over 90,000 fentanyl overdose deaths of our children. So it's the flip side of this illegal immigration is people are dying. Cartels are getting millions of dollars a day, and that has a real cost to it.
And this isn't, I mean, this isn't just a hypothesis. Literally flicking a switch, what this White House has done has exploded the profits for the cartels, correct?
Absolutely. No one celebrated this election more than the cartels because the promises Joe Biden made during the campaign, they knew they were back in business.
And because you have an open border, it's very, very easy for them to game it, to say, okay, you in that caravan of 3,000 people, you cross over there, while 10 miles down the way, you're going to be flooding in the fentanyl and we'll be running, right?
Exactly.
This is great for them.
And this isn't, Tom, listen to what the DEA is saying. Listen to what the U.S. Marshal, I mean, every law enforcement agency out there will tell you open borders creates more crime in our communities. So people, I get asked all the time, or I get comments all the time that President Trump's policy is inhumane. First of all, no, they weren't, not compared to Joe Biden's policies.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Can we stop a little, and so that you know my background. I've spent decades teaching the military. When you look at a threat, you do an estimate of the situation. You take a snapshot of the environment and you say, okay, what are their strengths? What are our strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are our weaknesses? How do we defeat the threat? Will you discuss a little bit this strategy for the Catholics, this Bernard Nathanson, the industry of mass murder, which is abortion? Can you tell us what was so effective about their approach and their plan? You said they caught the Catholic Church snoozing. What was the narrative that they sold? It was, we hear the word choice, but it was a little bit more sophisticated than that.
Yes. Well, he did craft this term pro-choice. He says, let's not say we're pro-abortion. Let's say we're pro-choice. But more specifically, he said, let's say to the media that the Catholics don't agree with what the hierarchy is saying about abortion. Let's create this division. And let's make it appear as though those who do agree with the church's teaching on abortion they're out of touch, they're old-fashioned, they're against women, they're in the minority. And they literally began inventing polls, inventing statistics. And because they had as it's still true today, had so many friends in the media, they just took it and ran with it. Nobody questioned it, and that's where that's where they succeeded. And you create this rift and paint the opposition to abortion as just a religious issue. Some of them still try to do that today, although it's harder to do it today because of the advances in science. But divide the clergy from the laity and send out these false polls. And then just paint it as a religious issue and say, oh, well, you can't impose your religious beliefs on everybody else. Well, it's also a religious teaching that you can't steal and you can't kill. So, what are we going to say? Hey, I'm not Catholic, so I can kill.
Right. Will you give us, how bad is it? What are we talking? This is truly an industry of death. Will you talk to the reality of modern abortion?
Yes. Well, Seb, what I always say to people who are arguing with me about abortion, I say, you think you have an opinion on abortion? Let me just ask you one question. Have you ever seen one?
Yeah.
Now, we have a website, lookatabortion.org. Now, this, I think, is where we have to have as the starting point. People want to know why we're so worked up about this issue. Some people say we put too much attention on it, et cetera, et cetera. Wait a minute. Have you ever seen one? As a matter of fact, and I always challenge the Democrats about this, describe what you defend.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to defend it. Pelosi, Biden, the whole
tell us
bunch
what
of
it is.
Tell us what it is. Just define your terms. As a matter of fact, we did a great. This was a lot of fun. We went into Congress. We did this a number of times. Our team at Priests for Life. We would go into the offices of some of the most pro-abortion members of Congress. We did this when Obama and Hillary Clinton were still in the Senate, and we would go in there, and we would have these medical diagrams of abortion, with the medical description from both the textbooks and from the testimonies of the abortionists at times when they would have to go testify in court.
So how the implements are used, the actual dismemberment
That's
of
right.
the
and
embryo,
the medical term.
Right.
And that word dismemberment and also the word decapitation are actually used in the medical textbooks.
Because that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing, right? So we would go in there in these offices, we'd sit down, and we'd get the head legislative, director, liaison.
Right.
And we say, okay, so we're not here to advocate, against abortion or about Roe v. Wade, but we're just here to ask one question. And then we would read the description. The doctor takes the forceps and pulls the leg off, pulls the arm off, and then we would ask this question: when the senator uses the word abortion, is this what he means? Wow. You wouldn't believe the reaction of these people. They'd be sitting there and saying, well, I don't know. I would have to say, you mean to tell me you're the one in charge of how the senator deals with abortion, and you can't even tell me what he means by the word? And this shows that in America right now, we are pretending, very often, we are pretending to have a debate on abortion. We're really not debating abortion.
No.
When Pelosi gets up there and says, let's pass this, Women's Health Protection Act like they did a few weeks ago, the most extreme abortion bill they've ever passed. It was like, okay, you're not talking about abortion, are you? You're talking about constitutional right, health care, women's freedom. Well, we're in favor of health care and women's freedom and their rights. but we're not in favor of abortion, but you're not even willing to describe what you defend. So when we talk
if you can't describe what you're defending, there's a problem, right?
There is a big problem. There's a big problem. You know, the little anecdote about this in Kansas, when Sam Brownback was governor of Kansas. So he was the first one to sign the law which says, now it's been passed by a number of states, that you cannot do a dismemberment abortion. Okay, so the word dismemberment was in the name of the bill. Right. When they were debating it in the legislature of Kansas, the Democrat senators who got up and spoke against the bill couldn't even say the name of the bill.
Oh, wow.
They didn't even name the bill. And same is true with Planned Parenthood. When they sent out their press release, they were talking about the bill, but they wouldn't say the name of it because it has the word dismemberment.
But, Father Frank, isn't that the nature of Planned Parenthood? Because the organization isn't planning parenthood.
No, that's right.
It's killing children.
It's killing children, exactly. Yeah, it's like I ask them all the time, what do you do for those that plan to be a parent? You know?
Right.
So you ask, how bad is it? It's got to start with an actual description of abortion, with people seeing those pictures. I use this example too. What if I stood on the sidewalk, and of course I've done this, holding a sign showing an aborted baby, but let's say I wasn't dressed as a priest. Let's say I wasn't saying a word, I wasn't handing out any flyers, and I didn't have any words on the sign. It's just a picture of an aborted baby. Now, question is, would people who are passing by think that I was in favor of it or that I was against it? They would all know I was protesting abortion, right? They would be no doubt. But then the question is, well, why? Maybe I'm advertising. Hey, folks, here's what they do down the street at the clinic. Go get your reduced rate abortion. They would know I'm against it. And that says something, doesn't it? When you show people what it actually is.
Well, I think because every human being is made in the image of God, and irrespective of their politics, deep down in their soul, they know it's wrong.
They know it's wrong.
They know it's wrong.
Absolutely. Yes.
You can't relate to that in a positive fashion, an aborted baby.
No. That's why the damage that's going on right now with abortion is not only that nothing is taking more human life, nothing. Do you look at the statistics for leading causes of death in America? Heart disease and cancer, right? They don't come anywhere near the numbers of abortions. We're killing about 1 million a year in these abortion clinics. And so it's bad from the statistical point of view. But it's the babies, but we have more evidence than ever of the damage abortion does to the mom, the dad, the whole family, feminization of poverty, increase of single parent, not a decrease, an increase of single parenthood.
So I mean, let's be clear here. I mean, the list is a long list. It's not just the taking of an innocent life. There is no life more innocent than an unborn child.
That's right.
It's the taking of a life which can never be justified. The morality of that can never be justified. It's the psychological, the spiritual damage to the mother, to the potential father, and then at the end of the day, the damage to the fabric of society. That website is lookatabortion.org. We're talking to the National Director of Priests for Life. That's priestsforlife.org. And he is Father Frank Pavone. You can follow him on Twitter at FR Frank Pavone. That's Father FR Frank Pavone.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
If that wasn't clear yesterday, let it be clear today. Why did people hug me? Right? The same question could be asked of the thousands of people who put their arms around me in the course of the last year in posing for pictures. They understood the risk that they were taking, and they thought that it was a minimal risk, which it turns out to have been. So while people that I know lived in their house for over a year and never left, I was hugging people. That is correct. That was the decision to choose life. You have a choice in life, to choose to live or to choose to be scared. And I chose all year and a half, now almost 2 years, to live life. I think it was the correct choice. A lot of people found it to be an admirable choice. But this is what they cover. Prager listed off a cocktail of therapeutics he said had been taken over the course of the pandemic, many of which have not been approved by the FDA. Yes. See, this is what constitutes truth for the Washington Post. The herd-like mentality. If the FDA approves it, then there's nothing to think about. If it doesn't approve it, there is nothing to think about.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And if you're not prepared to really think biblically in the power and the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, be careful, because the enemy wants to use Scripture against God. He did it when he quoted Scripture in the wilderness to Jesus. So I just want to challenge my fellow Christians and conservatives, be careful, because people's real lives are at stake.
But let's use a real example, Eric. For example, French, again, David French, a writer formerly of National Review and now with the Dispatch. Here's a guy who postures as a conservative Christian whose arguments in his articles are rooted in Scripture. This is the claim. He stated very clearly that he hoped Biden would win the election. And then recently he wrote an article to comfort Christians who are concerned about the very real possibility that the Hyde Amendment, which prevents an additional 50,000 abortions a year, that the Hyde Amendment is now imperiled. And so you're going, so on the one hand, you have told the Gestapo that you have Jews in your basement, and now you're wringing your hands and saying to everyone, now listen, I know that this looks really grim and it looks bad. The Gestapo is heading into the basement with their machine guns, but hey, God is sovereign. This kind of stuff is simply outrageous, and I felt like it was necessary for someone to take it on.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
I have to ask this question. Maybe you don't answer it. For some reason, as a cradle Catholic, I get to hang out with some, not rebellious, but some tough priests in my time. When I arrived to America, our parish priest was Antonin Scalia's son. So Father Paul,
Father Paul.
A very serious fire and brimstone priest, and it was fabulous to arrive to his parish.
Yes.
Is it hard for you to do what you do? What does the church think of what you do? What kind of flack do you get?
Okay, see,
because you are outspoken, Father.
This is a big story here. This is a big story. Yeah, you know, I first of all, of course, I wouldn't be doing this had I not gotten some really strong support. Right. Cardinal O'Connor was the one that launched me into this. Right. But even he got flack. As a cardinal, the Archbishop of New York, arguably the most influential cardinal in the country at that time. And he told me, and he said it publicly. He said, "Look, I get pushback from some of my brother bishops who say I'm too focused on this issue." And I've had bishops say to me, "Oh, Father Frank, you know, you're too aggressive about abortion." And I said, "Well, when abortion stops being aggressive against these little babies, then you come and talk to me." You know. Yeah, right. But you know, I start in my ministry with saying, "Look, we're a ministry of encouragement. We don't say we're priests for life because the other priests aren't for life. We say, no, all the priests are for life." Now, so there are exceptions, sadly. Yes. But they need help to say so. They need the tools to minister in their churches on this issue. So we help them in a very positive spirit. Despite the fact that we're so positive in our encouragement of our brother clergy, we get priests and bishops that literally want to stop what I'm doing. Now, I have had to go to the Vatican numerous times to defend this work and to defend my sincerely felt calling to do it on a full-time basis.
Is there some commonality to your critics? Why would a Catholic or a Catholic priest want you to not do what you are doing to defend, to help others defend the most vulnerable? Is it a not wanting to rock the boat, or is it more serious?
Well, it's a couple of things. Not wanting to rock the boat because, first of all, there are political loyalties at work here. Some of these men are deeply loyal to the Democrat Party, and they don't want to offend their friends. So we got to face that reality in the church. Or they don't want to offend not only their friends in the political world, but maybe they're helping them with some good social programs, and those programs are good. But you know, they don't want to offend them with abortion. Or they're wealthy Democrat parishioners who will take offense, withdraw their donations, etc. Okay, this is one thing of what's going on. Along the same lines, one of the things that some of these bishops have criticized me about is precisely my support for President Trump, and I have been absolutely unapologetic and unwavering in that. And I've said to them, listen, practically speaking, this is the way that we are going to end abortion in America. There is no other option here. Now, I support President Trump for a lot of reasons, but this was, of course, the driving factor right from square one. And I said to these bishops, and in fact, they even threatened to, believe it or not, they even threatened to throw me out of the priesthood for the role I played. As I mentioned before, I was his national co-chair for pro-life.
Right.
And it was like, I said, listen, I'm sorry, but do you want to end abortion or not? How serious are you? Because you know what? He's serious.
Yeah.
He's serious. And I got to say it, and I've said this publicly before, but I want to emphasize it here at this juncture. As a Catholic priest, I'm supposed to be getting encouragement from the bishops. And again, many of them support our work. And I'm supposed to be getting encouragement from my brother priest. But I have gotten, nowhere have I gotten more encouragement to do what I'm supposed to be doing as a priest, to say what I'm supposed to be saying, and to give witness to the gospel and to speak freely about its implications in our nation. I've not gotten any more encouragement from anyone than from Donald J. Trump.
That's incredible. I mean, I can tell you right now, Father, it was difficult for me as a former deputy assistant to the president, still an appointee to the Defense Department, to make this statement, because I grew up under Margaret Thatcher in the UK. I looked at Reagan as a true statesman, and it was tough. It was tough for me, as somebody who really thought Reagan was amazing, to admit the facts of the matter, that my boss was even more pro-life than Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
I mean, you know, the guy lambasted left and right, sadly, by fake conservatives, is more in favor of supporting the rights of the unborn and the most innocent than Ronald Reagan. Guys, if you want to do a little bit in this fight, and I think we're winning, I'm going to ask Father, then stand up and send a message to the world in what you believe in. It's America First, which includes our children. Support those who make this show possible, not just our advertisers. But we have a very sneaky T-shirt on our website, sebgorkastore.com. It uses the Planned Parenthood symbol, slightly adjusted because of, you know, you got to be smart about it. And it says, "My body, my choice," when it comes to the vaccine. So use their narrative against them. It's one of our most popular T-shirts, "My Body, My Choice." Be free, no mandates. sebgorkastore.com for all of your merchandise, including, of course, the president's T-shirt we made for when he came on the show. If you're woke, you're a loser. Go to sebgorkastore.com. That's SEBGORKA, sebgorkastore.com.